Hello, and welcome. So today we're going to talk about comparing and despairing. All right, comparing yourself to others, okay, and despairing at the fact that somehow in your mind you think you come up short. Now, the reason why I'm speaking to this today is because it's coming up a lot in my coaching programs. I'm seeing a lot of my clients, it's sneaking into their thoughts, particularly inside confident Black lawyers, where I help you to build the confidence to succeed, the confidence to be the first, right? To thrive in a white corporate world. For those of you who don't know me, by way of introduction, my name is Caroline Flanagan. I am the Black Lawyers Coach, and I'm on a mission to help you overcome every single barrier that's standing in the way of your happiness, your success, and your recognition. That includes the external barriers that you face environmentally within your organization, within your firm, that relate to not just, but often come up in relation to being the only one, but it also includes the internal barriers that you face. You know the ones I mean, the ones where it's you against you, where it's you holding you back, where it's you self-sabotaging, where it's you overthinking and overworking. I'm going to be speaking a little bit more to that in a moment. So this is my mission, and how I help you to do that, how I help you to overcome those external, those internal barriers, is through two programs. I have a signature group coaching program called Be the First. That's for you if you're a mid to senior level Black lawyer and you want to progress to that next level. And you want to, by the way, do that in a way that's measurable and sustainable. That's very important, part of my mission, that your success, your progress be sustainable. And the second way I do that is through my online confidence building program called Confident Black Lawyers. And that is for lawyers, Black lawyers at every stage of your career. It's never too soon or too late to build confidence in who you are, because it's the confidence in who you are that creates the foundation for all of the things you want to do in your career afterwards, everything you need to do in your career in order to progress, to be successful, and to enjoy it along the way. Okay, so back to today's topic then, comparing and despairing. I mentioned earlier, it's coming up within the coaching program. So a number of my clients are really getting stuck, and it's like this loop that keeps playing in their brains around going straight to, especially in confident Black lawyers, right? Going straight to the fact that everybody else seems to find it easier. So here's how you know that this is you. Here's how you know that comparing and despairing is something that you do. I'm just going to remove this banner so you can see the captions if they come up. How you know that you're someone who compares and despairs is you have thoughts like, I should be further along. So one of my clients has this, actually not just one of them, a number of them, this has been an issue for them. They are looking at where they are on their career journey, their level of seniority, and based on the number of years they've been qualified, based on the number of years they may have been in the same role, they're telling themselves that they are behind. And what is really aggravating this, and probably actually where it initially stems from, is seeing their peers, right, who have progressed further or have progressed faster, or identifying some peers who have progressed further and faster. It's interesting because they're not looking at all of their peers, because a number of their peers haven't actually progressed past them, but a number of them have. And it's that knowledge, that like seeing that they are what they call behind, that's really creating this spiral of comparing and despairing. So if you are someone who's looking at your peers and thinking, oh, they're ahead, I'm behind, I should be further along, this is how you know you are someone who compares and despairs, right? Another way you know it's you is if you are constantly saying to yourself, well, this seems to be so much easier for everyone else. This comes easily to everyone else. When I look around, this is something that people just do naturally, and I find it really hard, and I can't do it. So I'm thinking now of a particular client inside Confident Black Lawyers whose brain goes to this place all of the time. We're doing lots of work, as you can imagine, on her confidence, right? Building the confidence in who she is so that she has the confidence to get to work and build that confidence in what she does. That's how it works, right? Confidence in who you are first, and then confidence in what you do. That's how you build confidence that lasts, that will sustain you throughout your whole career, which is what our purpose is inside Confident Black Lawyers. So this particular client, as we're doing all this confidence work, keeps going to the fact, or an old thought pattern that her brain has of, well, everybody else seems to find it easier. This all comes naturally to everybody else. Other people are naturally confident. They don't have to try. Whereas for me, it's really difficult. So if this is you, if it's ringing any bells, again, this is a sign, right? This is evidence that you are someone who compares and despairs. And it's useful, I think, to think about it as comparing and despairing. One of the things I like to do, and you'll get used to as you follow me for longer and longer, and you join either Be the First or Confident Black Lawyers or both, you will get used to me using these very clear either phrases or expression, or giving things really clear, succinct names. I guess we're labeling things, and we're labeling them in a way, or rather naming them in a way that makes it so easy to identify when you're doing it. This is really important part of my process and my philosophy for how I get you to overcome those internal and external barriers I've been talking about. The ability to recognize a behavior, to be able to name it, means that you can catch it sooner where that behavior holds you back or is sabotaging you anyway. You'll be able to catch it, right? And then apply the tool or apply the skill that I teach you to solve for it or to turn it around. Yeah, so when you can catch it, you know exactly what it is. It means you know exactly what the answer is, what the solution is. A bit of a digression, but I think this is a useful way of a useful example to give you, so that you can take your mind to this every time you hear me give something a name or a label. You can hear and understand really deeply what I'm doing and why. So for example, it's like going to the doctors, right? If you go to the doctors because you've got certain symptoms and certain things that aren't working the way they should, or you're struggling with something, let's say headaches, whatever it might be, you go to the doctor and you describe what's going on. And what the doctor will do is give you the name, typically give you the name. They will give you I don't want to use the word diagnosis. It suggests that we're talking about something that's wrong. That's not what I want you to translate or take away from this analogy, but just the idea that once you have a name for something, right, a name for what's going on, it's then really clear exactly what the solution is. So in the doctor's analogy, it's really clear exactly what remedy it is that you will need for that particular issue. And that's how I approach and how I teach, right, in these lives or on the podcast, and within the programs, right? What we're doing is we're identifying what's going on, what's the underlying thing going on. Aha, we know what it is, and then we can very easily find the solution, and then I coach you to implement the solution. Okay, I'll walk you through every step. This is how it works when you work with me as your coach, and it creates tremendous results for my clients. It will do the same for you too. Okay, so coming back then to comparing and despairing, I've given you a couple of examples of how you know this is something you do. Let me see if there are another example. Oh yes, another example I've written in my notes is you might think to yourself, start questioning yourself with the unhelpful thought of like, what's wrong with me? Or there's something wrong with me. So instead of it being projected towards others, oh, they find it so easy, it comes so easily to them, everyone else can do it. Instead of it being about the other person that you're comparing it to, it becomes about you. You make it about you. So you say, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do it? Why can everyone else do it but not me? Sounding familiar? This is comparing and despairing. And what all of this has in common, and what I invite you to think about or reflect on, is how it makes you feel. When you look at those around you and you think they are further ahead, you are being left behind. When you think everybody else can do it, it comes to them so much more easily, and it doesn't come to me. Or for me, it's always hard. When you are telling yourself, oh, well, there must be something wrong with me, or why can't I do it? You're asking yourself that question. All of that feels, my generic term for how this kind of thing feels is terrible, right? And what I mean by that more specifically is the emotions you will feel and will register if you take a moment to connect with those emotions. I know it's something we don't have an awful lot of time to do in our day jobs, and especially you in the law. Like, it's not an industry that invites or encourages connection to your emotions. But I want to offer your emotions are working away in the background all the time. They are driving how you show up. So one of the things you are going to become when you join Be the First and Confident Black Lawyers is very emotionally literate. I got there in the end. I'm going to be teaching you how to understand what's going on emotionally for yourself because of how it's impacting how you show up. So to identify then the emotions that will come up, or any one or more emotions that are triggered when you compare and despair, these emotions are things like feeling like you're not enough, feeling inadequate, feeling less than, feeling discouraged. Like when you think about your goal, you feel discouraged, feeling hopeless, right? Those emotions. So if you have any of those feelings in the context, you're looking at what somebody else is doing, right? Looking at, you noticed, or you just received news that someone's been promoted and you haven't, like, connect with what's going on for you on an emotional level. Identify those feelings. Again, we're in the process of naming these things, naming the behavior, the comparing, despairing, naming the emotion. It's so helpful, right? Because it helps us move on to solving for it. So I want to just say, before I go on and I tell you what exactly I invite you is going to work for you, and I invite you to do to solve for comparing and despairing, I just want to be mega transparent and say this is something that I still catch myself doing. And what I want to offer is, it's not that I never do it. What I will offer is, I used to, before I did all of this confidence work, before I really understood and had developed this deep, profound knowledge and experience of how imposter syndrome works, how it shows up explicitly and secretly, how to solve for it, how to overcome it every single time. And before I built the skill of being able to solve for it, no matter what, I was comparing and despairing all the time. I spent a lot of time really thinking that everybody else found everything easier and I was the only one who found it hard. And what was wrong with me? This is honestly an experience that I have had. But what I want to add is that where I am now is not in a place where I never compare and despair. I'm in a place where when my brain wants to do that and starts to do that, I catch it and I quickly know exactly how to solve for it to take myself out of it. And just speaking more generally about the work I do and what I want for you and what the tools and skills that you will learn from me, what they are all about and why they are the key to you building this sustainable, successful career, is because the solutions allow you to not just succeed where you are now. The tools aren't just about overcoming imposter syndrome where you are now, or solving for those behaviors like comparing and despairing in this moment, and that every time it happens you're back to square one and you have to find the tool and apply it again. What I teach you, the tools and the skills, they become lifelong skills, lifelong tools, which means you can solve for comparing and despairing, to take this example, at every stage of your career, right? So it literally compounds over time rather than feeling like you're starting from scratch. Every time you feel out of your depth, or you feel less confident, you feel everyone else is further along than you are, you start beating yourself up, right? So what I'm teaching you, what I'm giving you, is something that's going to sustain you and last your whole career. That's why it's so very powerful, and it's also so effective. All right, so I'm giving you an example of where I used to be and now where I am, just highly skilled at catching myself when I want to compare and despair. I'll confess I've done it a bit lately, and this is where it happens for me. And honestly, it most likely happens for you too. I want to invite you, if you're watching this on the replay, to think about where does this happen? I'll speak to this a bit more in a moment. What triggers it? What sets you off comparing and despairing? And for me, the number one thing is probably social media. And I'm guessing it is for you too. How often do we go on social media and we start scrolling, and sometimes we see really nice posts that connects us to people we know or like or love, or new people we've just discovered, right? And then we see other posts. Maybe it's the announcement that somebody's been promoted and they're now at a level that you were hoping to be promoted to, you are aspiring to be promoted to, right? Maybe it's someone who's just been given a training contract at a Magic Circle law firm and you're still struggling with your applications. Maybe it's someone who's just got a new role and they're head of legal or GC at a big, well-known organization. It could be anything, right? Honestly, LinkedIn at the moment, I mean, I delight in the fact that every time I go on, I just see all of these celebrations, and it's wonderful. And I always try to recognize and celebrate every single one that I see. But I'm also acutely aware that you can have moments when you go on, and if all you see is celebrations, what that does is make you question where you are, make you feel like you are further behind, make you feel like you're not achieving as much. I had a client, she's still my client, even after a number of years of us working together, because she just gets more and more senior, and we just keep this work, the coaching we do together, it works so well for her, and I'm just supporting her at every single level of her meteoric rise in her organization, and it's so fantastic. And I remember in the earlier days before we were doing this confidence work, how she had a ridiculously long list of outstanding accomplishments, and yet always felt that she was slightly behind, always felt there was the next achievement that she needed to get. There was something missing. It wasn't enough, right? And she would have this awareness of what either peers were doing or look to other people and compare herself, often completely inaccurately, by the way. Like, very few of them were actually doing more or were further along than her, but her brain used to compare and despair, right? And what's been wonderful to see in her journey is how that is no longer the case, and the skill she now has, ability to catch it. But it's an example of another client, right, as well as being my experience of going onto social media, being on LinkedIn, celebrating, genuinely wanting to be happy for people, but not being able to ignore that feeling of self-doubt, inadequacy, not enoughness that it can trigger when you see others doing well and you think to yourself, I'm behind. So this happens to me too, except with me, it's like with coaches, right? I can see other coaches, when I see them being really visible, sometimes I can get into that compare and despair, and I'm not as visible, or I haven't got as much engagement, or I don't have as many views, I don't have as many followers. It's so funny, one of my dear friend colleagues, her name's Lizzie. She's amazing, by the way. She's a style. She runs a style consultancy and does a brilliant style program called Elevate. And she has, I remember when I first started doing videos and lives on YouTube, and I was doing them every day. And she'd I think started on YouTube a number of years before, but didn't really post as regularly as I was. And I remember being really chuffed when I'd get 3 views, or I'd get 1 like or something, 1 comment. And then I can't remember whether I looked her up or she mentioned her account, but I had a look at her account and she was getting 200,000 views or something. She's a dear friend of mine. I was just like, what? How is she so far along and I'm so far behind, right? So I do this a lot as well. Sometimes I do it with followers and I think, interesting, isn't it? How you notice the people who have more followers than you, not the people who have fewer followers than you. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But I really just wanted to be so transparent and share that this is something that I think it's part of human nature to do. We're constantly checking ourselves, right, in our environment and where we are alongside our peers. I think that's a very human condition. I think it's a very natural thing to do. We evolved making sure that we kind of fit in our context. So that's a very normal thing to do. The key is not so much to eliminate that altogether. I don't believe that that's necessary. You don't need to sort of get rid of these traits. All you need is to know exactly how to solve for them, and then build the skill of catching it and solving for it really quickly, right? It's the same thing. It's very powerful. And it makes you, by the way, very valuable when what you're doing is acquiring and building a skill set, right, that you can take with you and apply in so many different scenarios. And this is the beauty of how I teach and what I teach you. Okay, so I've shared a little bit of my own, my vulnerability around comparing and despairing. I've given you examples of how you know that it's you. Let's talk about why we want to nip this in the bud, why we want to be able to solve for this every time it happens. And by the way, what I didn't say, and is an essential part of that kind of skill building piece, is while I don't believe it eliminates the tendency altogether in us as human beings, what does happen is you experience compare and despair much less frequently, okay, and much less intensely. I would say the intensity of the emotion is significantly lower, right, when you have this skill. And the moments when your brain wants to compare and despair, they are fewer and fewer. I definitely don't do this anywhere near the amount that I used to do it when I was a junior lawyer, for example, just starting off with this work, right? So just to let you know that the amount you do it will also decrease. So here's why this is an issue and why we want to solve for it and develop this skill. Number one, and again, coming back to those names, those labels that I'm helpfully giving you, comparing and despairing is a form of overthinking. I define overthinking as all of the thinking that you do in your own head that keeps you spinning round and round in circles instead of moving forward, right? So if you have a piece of work in front of you and you're thinking about that piece of work, how you can approach it, what the problem is, how you can solve for that problem, how you can move it forward, what help you might need, what the next step is, that is productive thinking. That's appropriate thinking. Overthinking, the equivalent would be having a piece of work in front of you and then all you'd be thinking is, I don't know how to do this. I don't know enough. I don't have the right experience. I'm never going to be able to get it done in time. Can you see how circular that thinking is and how it doesn't move you forward in the task? So comparing and despairing is exactly that type of thing, right? It's very similar. It is overthinking. It's a form of overthinking. So in this case, when you're comparing and despairing, you're going, again, it's circular thinking. You're saying, oh, well, they're further along. Been promoted. Why not me? I'm not enough. And then I should be further along. All of this thinking does not get you in a state of taking action to achieve your goal. Okay, so anything that feels, I like to think about it as circular versus thinking that moves me forward into action. I like to think of that as overthinking. So when you catch yourself comparing and despairing, the next thing I want you to recognize is that, I'm overthinking. Caroline has taught me this is just a form of overthinking. And the other thing Caroline has taught me, and I'll go on to this now, is that overthinking is a secret sign of imposter syndrome, where the overthinking comes from any kind of feeling of inadequacy, of not enoughness, right? Not enoughness, that's the key. Anything that comes from that feeling that you are not enough, that overthinking that comes from that is a sign of imposter syndrome, okay? Overthinking is a secret sign of imposter syndrome. I keep repeating it and you're going to get really fluid and fluent in being able to name and identify exactly what's going on with you. And as I said in the beginning, it's the being able to identify and name exactly what's going on, exactly what your behavior is in the moment, that's going to get you so much faster to the solution, right? To coming out the other side of it. So it's a form of overthinking. In other words, a lot of time spent in your own head thinking without actually taking action or doing anything that's moving you towards your goal or your objective. The result of this, it's really simple. It's quite obvious. If you're going round and round with your thinking and not actually moving forward towards your goal, taking action to get the work done or to achieve that goal, then either you don't achieve your goal, right? So you're completely stuck in the overthinking, you don't achieve your goal, or you achieve your goal, but it slows you down significantly. So you may be someone, to just look at overthinking generally as an example, you might be someone who sits down to do a piece of work, does all of that overthinking that I've described to you, right? And you still eventually get the job done, right? You still eventually get there. Maybe you're a little bit later than the deadline because it took you so long. Procrastinators, I'm watching and I'm talking about you. It took you so long to actually get down to the task because of all the overthinking. So what can happen is you do, of course, get the task done, but it has slowed you down significantly. And what happens, because of how much bandwidth it takes up, overthinking consumes, right, in our brain, we have less available for the task in hand, which means not only does it slow you down in performing the task or achieving your objective or your goal, not only does it have the potential of keeping you stuck where you are, so you never complete the task or achieve your goal. The other thing it does, it's just got out of my mind straight away now. Yes, it keeps you stuck. It keeps you. Oh, yes, that's it. Of course, this would happen on a live. This is how you know it's live, people, is when something goes out of my brain. So either it keeps you stuck or it slows you down, and because of the bandwidth, right, it takes up with all of the overthinking, the comparing and despairing, you have less of your capable resources, right, available to you to do the job to your potential. In other words, you underperform. Okay. So yes, you get the job done, but you don't do as good a job as you would have done if you'd had 100% of your brain power focused on the task. I'm glad I got there in the end. Thank you for bearing with me. All right, so lots of reasons, very clear reasons why we want to learn the skill of catching your comparing and despairing and solving for it quickly so you can get on with the task, you can move forward towards your goal, start taking that action. So here's the solution I want to offer you. Actually, before we get to the solution, I want to invite you to use and to apply. I'm going to suggest two options that I have also explored with clients and I think are important. I want to say they're sort of the, for some reason my mind went to a backup band, right? Is the main singer, the main performer in a concert, and then there's the sort of backup singers, right? So these two, like mini solutions, I want to offer them as backup singers. They actually, on their own, they are not enough to get you to the level where you're performing at your highest potential. But they do help, right? They do contribute. And what I'll also say is if you didn't have them, but you did have the main performer, the main solution I'm going to share with you, that would get you there. I think the backup singers, so these other two solutions I'm going to offer you, enrich and deepen your experience, I think, of solving for comparing and despairing. So to the backup singers then, these two backup solutions. Number one is I really want to encourage you to look down as well as up. So if you must compare yourself, to those people who are further along than you, but you must equally compare yourself to those who are behind, right? To those for whom you are further along. This is like only fair. This is justice. This is the only, like, if you think about a way of looking at the world, it's completely inappropriate for you to only compare yourself to people who are further ahead than you. I don't know if inappropriate is the right word, but I can't think of the word that my brain is searching for. But there's something unjust, right, about, and I said this to my client, about you feeling a little bit sorry for yourself, indulging in your so-called inadequacy, because you're only looking at people who are further along than you. Like, think of all the people who would do anything to be in your place. Think of all the people who are looking at you in admiration, in awe, and inspired by you. Like, I know what the word is. It's an incomplete picture. It's incomplete to only look above you. You must look around you, must look beneath you, right? That's the only way you have a really honest and complete picture of where you are. And I promise you, if you can be in what's effectively is being in the gratitude of where you are, because that's what it does. When you see those who aren't as far along as you, it does give you this enormous sense of gratitude for where you are. That will a little bit loosen the hold, loosen the hold that comparing and despairing has on you. It'll provide some context for where you are and make you much better able to see those who are further along in a more forgiving light. And I mean forgiving of yourself, okay? Less judgmental of where you are and less perhaps in awe of where they are, because you also then can develop appreciation for where you are and the awe that inspires or instills in other people who are less far along than you and looking up at you and thinking, wow. So that's one of the backup singers I want to offer you, right? A backup solution or a supporting solution. That's probably the better word. The second one is really I want to challenge you on your level of presumption or presumptiveness. Not sure which word it is. Let me know. Like you presuming to know. This came out a lot with one of my clients, really presuming to know exactly what it was that was going on in the heads and in the brains and in the minds of her peers. She spent a lot of time presuming that all of her peers found it easy to be confident, took action really easily. They just kind of swan through life thinking they were great. The truth of the matter is you don't know. You don't know what is going on for someone. You don't know what demons they are battling, what self-doubt they've had to overcome, right? So I just want to offer and just want to suggest that you catch yourself when you like pretend to know what somebody else's experience is. People have so much going on. There is so much that is hidden you couldn't possibly understand about somebody else's experience. So just be really careful, be really mindful. And there's something, again, I think indulgent about ignoring the fact that the other people around you, even if they're further along than you, ignoring the fact that they are also human beings who have struggles, who, if they're like doing well in one area, maybe struggling enormously in another. They are human beings who could also have imposter syndrome and be very good at hiding it and covering it up because they're afraid of being exposed. Like, think about that. And this was interesting for my client because she absolutely, this is what we're working on. We're really looking at and solving for her imposter syndrome. And she admitted to me she's had people say to her, "Oh, you're so confident. It seems to come so easily to you." Like literally people say to her what she is saying or thinking about people who are further along than her. And she knows that for her, that's not her experience. So she understands only too well how wrong other people can be about how you feel. And so for you, I want to invite you to just catch yourself, right? If you're presuming to know exactly how easy or hard it is for somebody else to succeed or feel confident. Okay, so those are the backup singers, okay? They're the supporting acts. Here's the main act. Here's the number one thing. And actually, if you just do this, this will get you there. This will help you like solve for this comparing and despairing so that you don't get stuck, so that you get to your goal at the speed and at the, I mean, it doesn't have to be fast, right? But so you're not slowed down is what I mean. And it ensures that you perform to your potential along the way. It's really simple. All you have to do is stay in your lane. I know you've heard this expression before, but I'm just going to clarify. Stay in your lane. So imagine you're an Olympic athlete. I love a sporting metaphor, right? You are running the 100-meter sprint, right, on a day of the Olympics. It's the final, and you look to your left and you look to your right and you see people who've got a higher personal best, or you see people who ran in the competition before when you were injured, and your brain wants to compare and despair and be like, "Oh, well, I haven't done a personal best. My personal best is lower than this," or "I didn't compete in the last really important race, which would have prepared me for this." And your brain wants to compare and despair and presume and all of the stuff that I've talked about, all of those signs or signals that you're overthinking. If you're in this race, your only job, okay, is to run your race. Stay in your lane. In other words, like be clear on what your goal is, where you are trying to get to, and then focus 100% of your attention, right, on the action, the steps you need to take to get there, right? So every time your brain wants to offer you, "Oh, look what she's doing," or "Look what he's doing," you catch that, you bring yourself back and you bring yourself to your lane. Okay, what you need to do, where you are going, your journey. That's another beautiful way of thinking about it. It's one of the ways I think about it. I think about myself being on like my own journey, which started like many, many years ago. And I'm still on this journey, and this is my lane, and I'm staying in my lane. And every time I want to kind of look this way, look right, or look left, or even try and emulate what somebody else is doing because I think, "Oh, maybe that will be better," I stay in my lane. I remind myself I'm on my own journey. This is my lane. Stay there. All right. So this is what the solution is. This is where I want you to go when you catch yourself comparing and despairing. And the result of this, actually, I'll tell you why this works. I think it's really clear, right? It's probably really obvious why it works, but I'll be explicit so there's no room for doubt or confusion. When you focus on your goal and that goal is clear, And by the way, that could be a career goal. It could also be the goal of just getting a piece of work done in front of you. When you are clear on the goal, right? You staying in your lane, in other words, having your blinkers on, not thinking about what anybody else is doing, means you are 100% focused on what is in front of you. You are focused on what you need to do in order to achieve that goal. In other words, it puts you in this state of taking action. And remember, I said the opposite, where you're coming from is the opposite place of overthinking, which has you spinning around. You're just thinking in circles, not taking action, not moving forward. Staying in your lane has the opposite effect. It has you focused on the goal, that has you taking action and doing thinking that moves you forward. So thinking about, what do I need to do next? What problem do I need to solve? What does my attention need now? That's the kind of thinking that moves you forward. That's what the kind of the quality of thinking that you want to have instead of, or you want to switch to, right? When you catch yourself comparing and despairing in your brain, doing that circular, like overthinking. All right. So that's why it works. Keeps you focused, gets you taking action. All right. So, let's talk about how you exactly do that. Just looking in my notes here. Actually, I like this. I really like this. I don't want to miss this bit out. The results then, so if you think about it, you're taking action, you're focused on your goal, the results you get are exponential. Because what happens is you feel motivated. If you're only thinking about your goal and the action you need to take to get there, you feel motivated, right? You take that action. But interestingly, importantly, it means when you fail, when you have setbacks, you can bounce back from them because all you're focused on is staying in your lane, you're focused on your goal. When you fail, you bounce back. As you progress along, like as you move along your lane, you can recognize your progress, can't you? If you're not just busy looking at everybody else and where they are, and you are in your lane, you can recognize that you are further along than you were. This is so important. Too many of you, I mean, it actually astounds me when I get you working on this inside Be the First or in Confident Black Lawyers. I am astonished sometimes at how blind you are to your own progress. It makes me laugh. In Confident Black Lawyers yesterday, I was getting one of my clients to share her wins, right? We were celebrating the wins. This is one of the things you learn to do. It's a way of recognizing your progress. It's so powerful. I might do another podcast on that actually, because it's just been so interesting to see the transformation this has been creating inside the programs. It's just fantastic. And I'm like now thinking, I'm so passionate about getting this out to you. I just like want you all get inside Be the First, get inside Confident Black Lawyers, so I can teach you how to celebrate your wins and the impact that this is going to have in so many different areas of your career and in your life. And I've got a specific process that I invite you to follow that makes it very, very effective. It builds such enormous confidence. But yes, I'm laughing, remembering about the coaching I was doing yesterday inside Confident Black Lawyers. And she shared with me her wins, and I was writing notes and I got about 2/3 down one page. And then she was like, yeah, that's it. There was nothing else. And then I asked her another couple of questions. She started talking. I was making notes. We went on for another page and a half, right? Completely dismissed or forgotten or overlooked or was undermining all of this progress that she had made. All of this progress, these are all these were all wins that we want to mine the gold, right? Mine the gold, extract the value from that and use that to build your confidence. This is what I help you do. And I walk you through the steps, right? But what I'm just offering here, without getting slightly distracted, because I love talking about celebrating the wins, but to bring you back to, and for me to stay in my lane, talking about staying in your lane and the results it creates for you, is that you start to notice your progress. And the more you notice your progress, research shows, the more aware you are of your progress towards your goal, right? The more motivated you are and the more then action you take and the faster you get there. It is such a huge win. So you're going to recognize your progress. You're going to bounce back from failure. You will keep taking action. Of course, you're going to achieve your goal. Of course, you're going to get there more quickly. Of course, you're going to perform to your potential. Love it so much. All right, so how do you do it? I'm going to break down the steps for you as to how to stay in your lane. What I'm going to offer you is the exact same process, right, that I give you for every single sign of imposter syndrome. Right? This is how you overcome imposter syndrome, or rather, to be specific to this context, this is how you solve for comparing and despairing, which is a form of overthinking, which comes from imposter syndrome. Okay, can you see how it's all connected? So here are the steps. And we've done so many of them already, so you're going to be so pleased. There are 5 steps, but we've already done most of them. Number 1 is recognizing the signs, right? Recognizing that you're comparing and despairing, and that comparing and despairing is a form of overthinking, right? As soon as you recognize that, you know what it is, you know what to call it, it has a name, it has a label, we can move on to the next step, which is very important for your future effectiveness and the ease with which you can solve for this going forward. So the next step I always encourage is for you to understand the trigger. So understand what triggered it, what set you off comparing and despairing. I think this is really useful because it's then going to mean you can anticipate it going forward. So I know, for example, as I shared earlier, that sometimes going on social media triggers my imposter syndrome, right? It's a trigger. I start comparing and despairing, which is a form of overthinking. So I know like my imposter syndrome has been triggered. So if you know the triggers, know the things that tend to set you off, right? A bit like if you've got hay fever and you go to the park and it sets you off, going outside sets off your hay fever. I have to think about that. It's in my mind. My husband's always saying, oh, something's set me off. And he's always looking for what is the thing that started his hay fever going. But it's like that. It's like if you know the trigger, you can then start to also, I don't want to call it preventative measures, but you can prepare for it. Like I'm not going to start avoiding social media, right? It's a very important way for me to speak to you, to communicate, to connect with you, to show you, to invite you to join Confident Black Lawyers or be the first, to also give you solutions like stay in your lane, help you with things you are struggling with, give you an experience of what it's like working with me when you join those programs, right? I'm not going to stop using social media, but what it does mean is that when I go to like log on to LinkedIn or to Instagram, like I have the awareness this can trigger me. And so I'm really alert to catch the compare and despair. Like if I'm sort of anticipating it, I can catch it more easily. So I'm not going to have a whole hour or more where it just kind of lurks and I end up doing this overthinking. I'm doing this spiraling, right? Comparing and despairing the whole time. I catch it quickly. I know exactly what it is and I know exactly how to solve it, and I can do that straight away. All right. So recognize the signs, understand what's triggered you, what the trigger is, then process the feeling. Don't skip this bit. This is just like, okay, how is this feeling right now? I like this. It's important because processing the feeling means you're acknowledging how it makes you feel, as opposed to trying to ignore it, suppress it, and have it lurk there only to arise, only to sort of come up to the surface in the moment when you least want it. So if you're feeling inadequate, if you're feeling not enough, right, we want to acknowledge that, not push it down. And then the next time you're in a meeting and you put on the spot all of that inadequacy and not enoughness, suddenly comes up to the surface. So we want to acknowledge it. Okay, so just process the feeling. And what I invite you to do with that, just give the feeling a name. Not enoughness is my number one name, right? For that emotion. I come back to that. I'm like, yeah, okay, this has got me feeling like I'm not enough. Really useful to know. I'm just going to check in. I've got some comments here. Yes. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much for your support. Hi, M. Stroud. It's so good to see you. Okay, so we've talked about recognizing the signs, we've talked about understanding the triggers, we've talked about processing the emotion. The next thing I want you to do, this is the crucial thing, this is step 4, remember who you are. I've been talking to this as the solution, the way you overcome imposter syndrome in the moment, whatever you're doing, you remember who you are, okay? I'm going to come back to exactly what that means in a moment, but just know this is step 4. You've been triggered, right? Your imposter syndrome, you recognize the signs, you know what the emotion is, you're feeling inadequate. Then you want to take your brain, this is the skill, to remembering who you are. What that means is remembering how capable you are. All right. And what I do is I have a tool. It's called the imposter speech. It's literally the speech, the pep talk, the talking to you give yourself in that moment when you're feeling inadequate, when you're feeling insecure, when you're feeling less than, when you're feeling not enough, when your brain knows exactly what to say to yourself in those moments. And when you work with me in Confident Black Lawyers, and I'm going to introduce you to also Confidence Live, which is my upcoming in-person event where I teach you this, right? When you have built an imposter speech the way I teach you to build it, going through the process of remembering who you are, when you have that in your pocket to carry around with you, when you have that on hand, no matter what situations occurred that's triggered your imposter syndrome, no matter what signs, right? No matter whether you're overthinking or overworking, playing small, self-sabotaging, the minute you're comparing and despairing, which is what we're talking about today, you know exactly what to say to yourself to take you out of not enoughness and put you into confidence in who you are. And from there, my friend, confident in who you are, with that inner core confidence in your capability, in your resourcefulness, in your resilience, right? In your creativity, your ability to solve problems, right? When you are connected to that version of you that has all of that, accesses all of that, you can get to work, okay? You can get to work on the task at hand. So none of the procrastination that delays you, makes everything take so much longer than it should, makes you perform less, like below your potential. None of that. You can just get to work and perform at your highest level. Likewise, for your goal, you can stay. All of this is like you staying in your lane. You can stay in your lane. You can see what needs to be done. You can start taking that action. You'll be asking yourselves the right questions, asking for help if you need it, finding the solutions. Okay, all of this becomes available to you, right? The resourcefulness to find those solutions, all of that becomes available to you, right? When you remember who you are. So you are getting to work. Yeah, it's such a beautiful, clean process. I've broken it down for you into those 5 steps. And it's a process that we come to again and again and again. And the more times you do it, right, the faster it happens, the better you get at it. And the more efficient and effective you are at catching your imposter syndrome and solving for it and moving on. And building confidence then in what you do, getting better and better and better. So good. All right, I'm going to finish there. And wait, before you go, I'm going to finish teaching about staying in your lane there, but I can't let you go before I tell you, or without telling you, about Confidence Live. So Confidence Live is an unprecedented event. I have never done an event like this before for you, made it available at such a price point for so many of you. It's a live in-person one-day event on the 31st of May, 2025 from 10 o'clock till 4 p.m., right? I want to invite you, if you are a Black lawyer, doesn't matter what level you are at, you can be an aspiring lawyer, right? You could be a future trainee, or you could be a partner. It doesn't matter what level you are at. I want to put you all in one room, and we are going to be building confidence in who you are. And to the point, if you do have that concern about, should I be in a room with trainees? Or if you're a trainee, I don't know if I want to be in a room with partners. What I want to offer is at every single level of your career, you will need to be building confidence in who you are, because you are changing as you progress. The circumstances change as you progress. You go into bigger and bigger rooms, and by the way, also whiter rooms. So we want to be building your confidence alongside you. And this is what we'll be doing live in person with me, walking you through every single step on the 31st of May, 2025. So join me at The Conduit, which is a fabulous venue in Covent Garden in London. I want to invite you to come, bring all of your questions about confidence, all of your challenges, all of your thoughts, feelings about imposter syndrome, all of your suspicions about why you might have it, your beliefs about why you might not have it. Bring it all. We're going to clean all of that up, because there's so much confusion right now over what imposter syndrome is, whether you have it, whether you should admit to having it, whether people are telling you you have it. All of that, we're going to clean all of that up, because what I don't want, because I see this a lot, I see you getting caught up in the conversation around the question of imposter syndrome. I'm not here to help indulge you or me in going round and round and round in circles in the question of imposter syndrome. What we want to do is be able to spot it, solve for it really quickly, so you can get on with doing your best work and achieving whatever your goal is. All right. So all of this we're going to cover in Confidence Live, this one-day event I'm putting on in central London on the 31st of May, 2025. So there are only 40 places for this all-day event. I encourage you, if you're a Black lawyer, book your tickets today. The minute you see this and you hear me talk about it, go to my profile, click in the link If you are listening to this on the podcast, I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes. If you are watching this on social media or wherever I may decide to put it, maybe on my website, make sure you look for the link and you book your place now. I've only got 40 places, right? So I want to make sure if you even have a sense that imposter syndrome is something that's holding you back, or even a query over whether it might be, book your ticket right now. I've made the price point so affordable. I wanted it to be the lowest barrier to entry as possible because I'm here. I want to help you. And what we're going to do that day, as well as clear up everything, all of your doubts and uncertainties about imposter syndrome, is we are going to build your imposter speech. I'm going to give you that tool. It is the tool that enables you to remember where you are in the moment, right? In the exact moment when you need it, however many times you need it. And with the repeated use of that tool, you are going to get better and better, quicker and quicker at solving your imposter and catching it, solving for it, until it becomes almost instantaneous, until your main experience of who you are and how you interact with your work and with your colleagues, in your relationships, in your career, is one of confidence. This is what we all want. Confidence, my friend, is the key. I was thinking about this early today. Why is confidence so important? Why would you want to join me for a day to build your confidence, to have a tool that will sustain you throughout your whole career, not just now where you are, your whole career? Why is it worth the investment of your time and your money to learn this, to build this? And I realized I started writing a list of like what you need or what want confidence for. And it is at the heart, it's the foundation of everything. The confidence to be happy, the confidence to succeed, more specifically, the confidence to set boundaries, the confidence to ask for help, the confidence to ask for what you want, the confidence to speak up in meetings, the confidence to seize an opportunity, the confidence to go for a promotion. I mean, there's such a long list. Those are just the ones at the top of my head. I have such a long list, right? If I went through it, we'd be here for another hour. Confidence is the key. And I'm going to help you to build all of it on the 31st of May, 2025, at 10 a.m. all the way through to 4 p.m. We're going to build it together. I'm there. I'm going to be coaching you every step of the way. I can't wait. I'm so excited. If you are a Black lawyer and you want to progress, you want to perform to your potential and get the happiness, the success, the recognition that you deserve, and do it all in a way that is sustainable, you, my friend, want to be there. Grab your ticket now. All right. Great speaking to you. Have a beautiful week, my friend. I will be back this time next week as usual. Bye for now.